Hello and welcome to the Single Spark, previously known as the Single Girl's Guide to Life. This is the podcast for all things single and sparkling. Whether you're looking to get your spark back as a single or you're looking to make sparks with others, this is the podcast for you, because all it takes is one single spark. And with that, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of the Single Spark, and today we're delving into the fear that I hear most often come up when people want to start dating again, but they're just too scared of getting hurt in the process to go through it all again. And I understand why this is such a hard thing to do, because you sit there knowing that you want a relationship, but from the experience you had with your last relationship or just the experience you've had through dating, people don't say what they really want. They ghost you after 3 weeks of dating when you thought it was all going well, and suddenly they're just not replying to any messages anymore. Like, what was that last 3 weeks? And you can't help but think, what is wrong with me? Or what am I doing? And is there something wrong with me? Am I that unlovable that no one wants to be with me? And it's when the behaviour's even worse, if there's ever been any cheating, if you ever caught someone texting somebody else, even in the dating stage when they said maybe there was a level of exclusivity, but it turned out they were still on a dating app, or if in a relationship you were with someone for a significant amount of time and then you saw them with someone else, or you were always suspicious but never had the proof. And every time we go through an experience like that, whether it's serious enough to be called a relationship or it's in the dating phase, like, that causes us a level of trauma, I think some people would say it is, that make us not want to do it again. It hurts to have had it happen to us. It's embarrassing. It's bad enough when you have to tell someone that you've broken up, let alone then telling people why. And even though it's totally not your fault, you feel ashamed that maybe there was something you could have done that would have stopped them from doing that. Maybe it could have been different if you'd showed up in a particular way. Maybe it is because you think that it's because you're not as pretty as somebody else. There is somebody else. And it's easy to hold on to that because our brains are going to believe evidence that's put in front of us. So as people leave us on red, deal with things in a shitty way, don't give us the respect we deserve in the process of dating, because you know that you're going to have difficult conversations. You know everything's not going to work. Like, you know that. You're fine with that. It's upsetting and it's disappointing when it happens. But at least have a level of decency that you don't make this really difficult for me by not communicating at all or just poorly. To then believe that. It forms a belief that if I date, I'm probably going to get hurt. Like, the chances of not getting hurt in some way, of not having someone badly deal with a situation of dating, or of someone do the worst, becomes truth in your mind. And we're going to talk about that today, because you thinking that you're going to get hurt in dating is the number one reason you're not getting back out there and dating and going out getting what you really want, which for many of you is a relationship. But understandably, the fear, the worry of getting hurt again, and rightly so, just stops you, because it's awful, it's painful. But I don't want you to be sat there, stuck, wanting something and not getting it because of poor behaviour of other people. I want you to have the confidence to go out there and find those people in the right ways so that you can get what you want. Have that relationship, get married, have kids. If that's what you want to do, then go for it. Now, I'm not going to say that you're not going to feel upset or guarantee that you're not going to get hurt ever again. Because when we're trying to find somebody good to date, and we haven't yet done that, it's wise to understand that we probably are contributing to the problem, even though it's not necessarily your behaviour directly that's causing you the hurt. Okay? There are things that we are in control of, and there's things that we aren't in control of, and there's probably a few things that we're not doing quite as good as we could do. And what that does is it minimises the chances of that other person's behaviour coming up and having the impact that it's having the effect of upset and disruption and hurt, compared to the things that you can't control the other person doing. Okay? And I know some of you are going to be like, but it is their fault. It's all their fault. It's always them. I'm the one that's trying to talk to people, trying to be open and honest, and they never talk about what they really want. They just ghost. They leave without saying a word. It's all on them. And you usually hear these phrases like, men are the problem. But if that were really true, then it would be easy to find the good ones. There would be ones to find in between, and you wouldn't keep ending up with them. You wouldn't keep missing out on them, because if you're out there dating, you'd find them. And so in order to proceed through this episode, you have to be willing to understand that you can do some stuff about this, even though it's not directly your behaviour that maybe gives the hurt. And the thing with dating is that we have to see dating as a learning experience, one that we can get better at, the same way relationships are as well. I mean, you can't learn to be good in a relationship until you're in a relationship. It doesn't work like that. You've got to be in one, and it was what I craved in part of why I wanted to be in a relationship, because I was like, I'm reading a lot of this stuff and I'm learning all about communication, relationships, interactions, but I'm not getting a chance to practice it, because how far can you practice that with a friend? Only so far. An intimate relationship is very, very different. And so part of me, yes, I was learning some of it through the dating process, but part of me really wanted to be in a relationship, because I was like, I want this next level of personal development challenge. And a relationship brings it out of you like no other. And I'm pleased to say, I'm not perfect, but I'm pleased to say that things work. The communication that I have is much better. My ability to communicate is stronger, because otherwise I just kept things to myself. And it's these kind of realizations that I had to have as part of the dating process to be able to be ready for a relationship. I had to have the experience of someone being terrible at communication to realize that communication in between seeing one another was really important to me. It becomes a non-negotiable. I had to see that the consistency and the boring side to consistency is what I really need in a relationship, because I actually can't cope with someone being inconsistent. And so we can see that as getting hurt, see that as someone not communicating very well, seeing that as someone being a bad person to date, inverted commas. But the reality is that those experiences of getting hurt, of being left on red, of not being text back, of being ghosted, make me realise what I do want, what I don't want. They're all learning experiences. They are ways to give me feedback so I can adjust my search criteria, so that when someone doesn't message in the same format, I'm like, this might not work, because actually I'm a texter. I like talking. It doesn't have to be constant throughout the day. If you're busy, you're busy. But like little check-ins, yes please. And so when you're getting that in early stage dating, you're like, this is looking good. If it tails off, you're like, why has it changed? What's happening? And the whole process of dating, you have to see it like learning to ride a bike. Because when you first take those stabilizers off the bike, you are going to fall off left, right and centre, right? You've got to learn how to get your balance. You've got to learn how to make the bike go along. You can't just stop anymore. You've got the whole technique of using the left hand, then the right hand brake to come to a nice slow start. I mean, it probably starts with your feet just dragging across the floor normally. I mean, you might have learned that with stabilisers on, to be fair, but it's much more high stakes when you're learning the balance of everything and trying to do it. And so the first thing you want to do is take that new approach to what being hurt really is. And I don't want you to have to go through unnecessary experiences, and certainly not a significant number of those experiences of getting hurt. But what I want you to do is that when it comes up, because it's dating. We don't know who's in the pool. We can only educate ourselves so well as to finding someone good who's not going to do those things. But then knowing how to cope with that hurt, being able to look at it from a different perspective of, okay, in fact, in this instance, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to know, like, have you been hurt that many times? We need to look at the patterns of what's going on. Did they all ghost? Did they all change their minds? What was it that caused you upset? Are the people that you've been with previously, is there a record of cheating? And what are we doing wrong in that selection process? Was there anyone that was different, and why were they different? Was the relationship different? Were they different as a type of person? More about all of them could we look back at and see was a problem to begin with that maybe we ignored? Because there are 3 elements to this that we always need to look at when we're considering getting ourselves back into dating and trying to avoid as much hurt as possible. Firstly, it comes down to you. And I've already touched on this, but you've got to take responsibility for those actions. We've got to know that you're not contributing to the problem, or at least minimising the level of contribution you have to the type of people that we're letting into our lives in an intimate way. Probably sharing things you wouldn't share with on an average first conversation with someone, as you do in dating. We often lead to deep conversations because we're trying to get to know someone quicker. We don't often do that in friendship scenarios. You develop a friendship over time in a workplace, on a holiday, you're sharing bits and pieces. But we've got to look at what we're doing within that. And second to that, we also need to know what you're really looking for. What was it that caused you upset and distress before that you didn't like? Because like myself, if someone's going to take a day to respond, it's not happening. I know I have to be talking to someone semi-regularly, and it's always a fine balance to get right when you're in early stage dating, because you're like, oh, what if I text them too much? But Jason and I have been in conversation since August 2022, and there has not been a 24-hour period bar one that has gone by when we were like, we hadn't had a conversation. Now, at the start, that's very different to now. I mean, I think I messaged him in between recording a podcast going, hey, how's your day going? And I'd only heard of it from him 2 hours ago. That's just how we catch up when we're not together. It's a chill day as well. It's not like a work day. Whereas back 2 years ago, we would have waited a day. It would have been, we spoke last night. Unless someone did a morning message, it would have been like, we'll catch up in the evening once he's back at home outside of work. Because I would have respected his concept of being at work and wanting that time for work as opposed to talking to someone in the day. So that for me is important. But I could only have worked that out through all the experience that I had with all the other people. All the other things of not working out. I also had to do a lot of work on my attachment style, my anxious attachment style. And you're not going to necessarily change that. Certainly not overnight. And I don't think you can actually heal it without being with someone. My personal opinion, you have to have an experience with someone that can support you through that to become more secure. To become secure. But it was useful at the start to be able to explain to Jason how I was feeling and why sometimes I felt like I was having more of an extreme reaction than a secure person would, or a person with a secure attachment would. And at least it helped to understand it. What behaviours might otherwise be called crazy at points, or it's just too much. He understood it was too much. I was feeling abandoned, I was feeling alone, I was feeling lost, whatever it might be. And you can only do that if you know yourself, what you're looking for, and what you're like in the most honest, true way. Now, it isn't all about you, okay? You've got to take the responsibility. You've got to fill up your cup first, and then we move on to the other people. Because, yes, the other people are responsible for their part in this. As I said, I'm not completely looking at you for this and this only. But we have to get good at observing other people. We have to learn what people are really saying when they say things, or when they say one thing but do another. What does that really mean? But they said they were looking for something. Yeah, but they're not really committing to any date nights with you. Like, what are we doing there? You need to understand other people to a basic level. You need to look out for signs without being sceptical. Because that's the other thing. When you're hurt from this scenario, you will jump to conclusions about someone so quickly. and you think you're right, especially if you've got an anxious attachment style, you'll be able to predict what they're going to do. And that's because they are going to do it, and then they do it, and then you believe that you are great at predicting behaviour. But what if I told you that you made it happen? You allowed it to happen. Because that dynamic, when you have an anxious attachment style, feeds your belief, it makes you right, and you let that person in because it feels the most familiar. It's not the best for you. The boring, consistent person is mostly for most of us. Most of us enjoy consistency. We know what we're going to get. But not us anxious attached style people. No. We like the push-pull dynamic. We want to have to prove ourselves. We want to get that attention. It's a reward. But you don't really. That's not who you want. And understanding that dynamic in yourself and other people is what then allows you to be able to find the right people early on, or choose people that are more likely to have a better potential to be a match for you. A real match. A match that's going to work out. A match that could last a year, 2 years, 10 years. Who knows? So we have to start to learn about other people. And then we have to focus our attention to actually dating. Dating in the sense of having fun, being flirtatious in some way. This is a different interaction with someone. I see so many people like friend zoning their dates straight away because we're not used to flirting, like in-person flirting. Maybe you're a bit cheeky on the old text, but not happening quite so much. Boundaries, communication in general. We've got to learn how to actually use the apps in an effective way. Got to look at how to go on cool dates that allow you to speak to a person whilst also having experience together. All of these things. And it's cool. You can focus on yourself. You can focus on the other people. But if you don't have that dating piece, then you'll just end up as friends. Or you'll end up in a scenario that you didn't want to be. Maybe moving through dating too quickly. If you focus on yourself and dating, but you never learn to read people, yep, you'll go out, you'll flirt, but you'll just have all the wrong people coming through the door, and you'll be stuck going on dates, knowing what you want, but being frustrated that you're not getting the outcome that you're really looking for. And hey, if you never did any of the deep work, maybe you know a bit about other people, you know how to date, maybe you've been playing games essentially, like learning all those texts to send people to get their attention. It's not in alignment with you. It's not in alignment with what you want. It was what that latest love guru told you to send to get somebody's attention. Not about the hacks. Not about those silly little things. We're about deeply learning what we want and spotting it in a crowd when it arrives so that you don't waste time on the wrong people for you and end up getting hurt. And people come to me worried about dating. Of course they do. They worry about the outcome of being ghosted, being cheated on. It's exhausting on the end of that. In the dating scenario, being cheated on in a relationship is a more significant, impactful negative thing. But once it's over and done with, as long as you get rid of that person, like, you can calm down and you can start to recover. In dating, it's the constant churn, all the emotions. It's the roller coaster of having to deal with people that just shouldn't be in the dating pool half the time. This is where you get to take responsibility in that. Where you get to say, no, I've had enough of this. I'm doing something about it. I'm going to learn about me. I'm going to go learn about other people and how to spot these signs in a reasonable way without being too sceptical, because otherwise I'm going to ruin all my chances. I'm just going to write everybody off the minute they show one tiny little... I'm going to learn how to actually have fun dating. Do it properly. Go at a steady pace, not whiz through it like that, thinking that you need to be Prince Charming. I need to fall in love. If you're falling in love, you're in trouble. That's what I'm telling you. And this is all the kind of stuff that I'm going to be sharing in more detail, working with people on directly later on in the year. So I'm going to pop a little link in the description if this is something that you are looking for. If you want to start getting out of that cycle of dating all the wrong people, you want to get back into finding the right people to date, and you're ready to take action and do the work that you need to do to make that happen, Not trying to change other people, trying to find better people to date, sure, but coming back to yourself, exploring you, doing better with that, and have someone cheerleading you along the way. Pop your name on that list, because it's not ready just yet. Pop your name on that list for when it does become available. You can start then working on you, what you really want, not accepting the BS from everybody. Honestly, the amount of people... I found a name in the journals. I've been rereading some of my old journals. I saw the name. He was a time waster. Absolutely wasted my time all the time. And it wasn't for long, don't get me wrong. At this point, I was quite far into my dating experience, and I had a short leash of tolerance, but I still had any kind of leash of tolerance, and I shouldn't have done for this kind of person. I saw the name, and I just feel, oh, you're a dickhead. Because he made me feel like I wanted too much when I didn't. I just wanted someone that was going to put a date in their diary and actually be there when they said they were going to be there. But they'd blown me out quite close to the time. I think it was on the day. And then any rearrangement of it was just, sketchy. There you go. Like, what was I doing? And annoyingly, had to get hurt, go through that experience, to be in the scenario I'm in now with Jason, where thankfully he's a consistent person and he shows up when he says he's going to. So first, great green flag. But there have been things over time that I've had to say, well, no, like, how are we going to deal with that? You can't do that. What about what I want from this situation? Especially at the start when we were dealing with the dynamic, like, hey, we're going to talk about this. What do you see happening? What do you see things wanting to look like? And I'm not talking about marriage or anything like that. That should not be on your early list. But like, how often do you want to see someone? Oh, like once a week. Or that's what I've got capacity for with kids. Okay, once a week, I can work with that. How often do you talk? Obviously, you've got kids, so like, how much are you involved with them, and how much free time do you get? You know, all of that navigation stuff. But he showed up, thankfully. And I'm not the only success story of my own. We have other people that have gone through this experience of doing the work on themselves and changing up how they look at things, and not saying yes to all the wrong things, but following the ones that seem to be a good fit, that they're having a good vibe with, following that interest, and making sure it's something that they really want. We've got people that have been together for over a year now. I mean, I always find that insane. But these things work when you put them in practice, when you stop accepting the rubbish from others, when you start really getting down to what you want. And you create this relationship. It comes to you because you created the opportunity. You didn't create the opportunity. You took the opportunity when it came out. You were prepared for it. You created that level of luck. It was yours to take when it appeared in your lap because you were ready. You weren't ignoring them because they felt more boring. You weren't too distracted by that other person that was push-pull dynamic. You hadn't overlooked what you really wanted, so ended up in the wrong situation. You hadn't looked past the terrible things about a person to end up with the wrong person. You didn't rush through dating because you were following the Disneyland version of that. You did it at a slow, steady pace where you had fun, actually got to know a person, made it a bit flirty, didn't leave all of that side out of things. As I say, get your name on that list if you want to start putting the work in, maybe finding someone by the end of the year or very early into next year. And that way you will be the first to find out about when things get rolling for that program of helping you find the person to date that is right for you, good for you, not hopefully going to waste your time. Until next time, everybody, keep sparkling.